The reason I wanted to bring you all up here is so that you can kind of understand the drainage pattern. If you look back here, and it's difficult to see, but for about the next 1.5 miles all the way up to Rampart Range Road, it's completely burned back here. And it's a high severity burn. It's really bad. And we'll see it on the way out of here on the road when we go out of here as well. But if you look down just below you, there's normally not a creek here. What happened last Monday was we had roughly a 2-year storm event that came through here, and it made its own creek bed. The creek bed is usually about 60, 70 feet in, and it's just a real small creek. But you can see that the creek came all the way out here, and it basically filled up this entire canyon. What happens is as that water continues to move, there's no vegetation to control any of that erosion, to keep any of that debris in check. It all comes down. And the further down you go, the more debris collects, the more water collects, the more problems that we have. This decomposed granite soil that we have here is just not ideal for holding vegetation. And so this is really where the problem for us begins. And it just gets worse as we go on. So I just wanted you to see that, kind of understand what's going on here.
Does it surprise you how bad this is?
Yes. Yeah, we expected some problems, particularly around the caretaker's house that we passed on the way up here. And I don't know if you guys noticed when we went by his house, but that water line is about 4 feet on the house. We really didn't expect the caretaker's house to get flooded. No water got inside the house. The garage was flooded, but we didn't anticipate that. We've had some different hydrologists from the Forest Service tell us that this could be really bad, but until you really see it for yourself, it's difficult to fully comprehend and fully grasp the magnitude of what can happen with really a relatively small storm. We recorded just over 2.5 inches on this rainstorm. That's not a lot of rain, and this is the kind of damage that it caused. You can see all the debris down there and the big clumps, the logs and the branches and all that just accumulates, and it piles up and it gets bigger and it piles on top of each other. The thing that we're concerned about now is as each successive storm comes, that debris continues to pile, continues to build, and if we get a real gully washer, really bad things can happen. Really bad things can happen to our infrastructure, and we just make sure that if we see rain clouds coming, we're out of here. All those folks that are doing construction work down below, they're gone.
So how does Colorado Springs Utilities plan to address the problem?
We're not entirely sure, to be real honest with you. We're still trying to get a handle on how this is going to work, where the water's going to move. We have plans to work very closely with the Forest Service. The Forest Service owns all this land, or the majority of this land. Before we do anything, we need to submit to them a plan. It has to be a fairly detailed plan. They're great to work with, and we have to get those approvals. And so while we have some preliminary ideas in place, we haven't fully vetted those with the Forest Service yet, and I really don't want to get into detail as to what those plans look like until they've given their final blessing. It will be aggressive. We have to be aggressive to try to control some of this debris flow. It'll be things like large sediment ponds, deep sediment ponds to collect some of that debris. Potentially some wooden check dam structures that really come across and hold that debris back so that we can come back and clean it out later. It'll be things like that, but until we get the final approvals from the Forest Service, I really can't go into detail.
And who pays for that?
That's a great question. Colorado Springs Utilities will be responsible for funding all this work. And there's a lot of questions around how much is this going to cost. To be real honest with you, I don't know. You'll see down below. It's far worse than what we see here. This really isn't that big a deal, but it's what it does downstream that causes us so many problems. The other challenge we have is if we get another rainstorm, it's going to change the conditions that we see today. And so trying to put a dollar figure on that, I know it sounds elusive, but we're still trying to figure that out. We've had surveyors coming up here to actually get measurements and that sort of thing so that we can start coming up with order of magnitude costs. But right now I really couldn't give you a figure.